next of kin, Donner, Blitzen, Prancer,
and Dancer.
Welcome back to Holiday Hysteria. Day 3 takes us back to the story of that all-so-often told holiday classic, A Christmas Carol. Released in 1935, Scrooge was the first full-length feature film movie of the story. It's also credited with being the first one with sound, and it stars Sir Seymour Hicks as the old miser himself. Interesting side note about Hicks, aside from being a knight, he's also credited with being the person who discovered one of the great directors of his time, an unknown young director named Alfred Hitchcock. But back to Scrooge. Seymour Hicks is fantastic in the part, and believe me, he's the Victorian miser if there ever was one. Really gives you a dislike for the character right away. In fact, Hicks was actually chosen for the role by director Henry Edwards because he had seen him play the role on stage so many different times during the early 1900s. Starring alongside him is Donald Calthrop, who could very easily be considered one of the best Bob Cratchits ever, not only for his acting abilities and natural instinct he pulls from the audience to feel bad for him,
None of your mumbling, none of your mumbling.
but also his uncanny resemblance to John Leech's illustrations of the character from the 1843 novel itself. Although the film does have its interesting points, it differs from all future versions for a few reasons. First, it was made in the UK, and it's apparent by the inclusion of God Save the Queen, which is sort of out of the blue in the place in the movie. It just falls in there, and it doesn't include any of the characters we're coming to know. I suppose that's the right of the director to include such a scene if he wishes, and he did just that. In addition to that odd placement, this is the only film where only Scrooge can see the ghost. Or most of the ghost in any case. The Ghost of Christmas Present is shown in full figure, but it quickly becomes apparent that the production company just lacked the skills to achieve the special effects it needed to make the ghost. But in any way, this is sort of unbelievable considering that Thomas A. Edison's version of A Christmas Carol, released in 1910, that's 25 years prior to this film's release, was successful in creating such special effects for their ghost. I would give them the benefit of the doubt, but with a quarter of a century separating these two films, it's really hard to do that. Some might just call it artistic differences, but I would say that's a way of copying out of the responsibilities to create the correct, genuine version of the story. Finally, would you believe that this is Scrooge? Would you believe that this is a movie about Christmas if I just showed you this scene? It's beyond odd why this was included and not left on the cutting room floor. It shouldn't even been on the cutting room floor. It should have been in the ocean. Yet, there it is. Besides those unique quirks, the story does do a good job of telling just that, a story. It has all the classic lines.
Humbug. Are there no prisons?
God bless us, everyone.
Ebenezer Scrooge!
Strangely enough, the scene where Tiny Tim is saying, "God bless us, everyone," was cut from the original version, but was later included on the re-release of the film. Scrooge has its moments. It's told in such a way that at the end of the day it remains one of the better versions of the film. Though not the best, it has its own nostalgic value to it that cannot be taken away. And you get to see an old man get covered in snow by a butcher, and who can't help but laugh at that.